The council chamber floated in the darkness of space, a massive ring of metal and glass that orbited the neutral world below. Inside, representatives from 40 different species sat in their designated sections, watching the humans with barely concealed amusement. Admiral Jack Morrison stood at the center platform, his blue uniform crisp and neat. Beside him, Commander Lisa Grant held a datapad with humanity's petition. They had waited 50 years for this moment. 50 years of proving themselves worthy. 50 years of following every rule the Galactic Council had created. The human species requests full membership in the Galactic Council, Morrison said, his voice steady and clear. We have met every requirement. We have maintained peace with our neighbors. We have contributed to galactic trade and science. We ask only for the respect we have earned. A deep, rumbling laugh echoed through the chamber. Ambassador Zekthor rose from his seat, his massive form covered in thick scales that gleamed under the lights. The Vrytix Empire had conquered 47 star systems. They were warriors, born and bred for battle. Next to them, humans looked like children. Respect? Zekthor's voice boomed. You ask for respect? Look at you. Your bones break from simple falls. Your skin tears like wet paper. You have no claws, no fangs, no armor. You live for barely a century. What have you ever done to earn respect? Other council members joined in the laughter. The insectoid creche clicked their mandibles in amusement. The crystalline Morpheus chimed their agreement. Even the ancient Selenar, who rarely showed emotion, seemed entertained. High Counselor Mir Asha, leader of the Selenar Collective, raised one elegant hand for silence. Her species had been traveling the stars for 10,000 years. She had seen countless races rise and fall. The Vrytix raise a valid concern, she said, her voice like wind through crystal. Humanity, your military capabilities are limited. You have no significant weapons. Your ships are slow. Your soldiers are fragile. How can we grant full membership to a species that cannot defend itself, cannot defend us? Morrison felt Grant tense beside him, but he remained calm. He had expected this. They all had. We have defended ourselves quite well, Morrison replied. We have never asked for your protection. We have never needed it. Because no one has bothered to attack you. Zekthor laughed again. You are insects, beneath notice. The only reason you still exist is because conquering your worlds would be more trouble than they are worth. Barely. The Vrytix ambassador walked down from his platform, his massive feet shaking the floor. He circled Morrison like a predator examining prey. Morrison stood perfectly still, meeting Zekthor's eyes without fear. I could snap your spine with one hand, Zekthor said quietly, so only Morrison could hear. Your entire species could be erased in a single solar cycle. Every human world burned, every human ship destroyed, and there would be nothing you could do to stop it. Morrison smiled then, a cold smile that didn't reach his eyes. Underestimating humanity has historically been a fatal mistake, he said softly. Ask the Neanderthals. Ask the Denisovans. Oh wait, you can't. They made the same mistake you're making now. Zekthor's eyes narrowed, but he returned to his platform. The council voted. The result was unanimous. Humanity's petition was denied. Perhaps in another century, Mir Asha said, though her tone suggested she doubted humanity would last that long. When you have proven you can stand among the strong. Morrison bowed slightly, the gesture required by protocol. But as he turned to leave, Zekthor spoke again. Actually, I have a proposal. The Vrytix ambassador's voice carried across the chamber. Humanity occupies several worlds that would be useful to the Vrytix Empire. New Dakota with its rich mineral deposits, New Texas with its agricultural capacity, New Montana positioned along key trade routes. Morrison stopped walking. Beside him, Grant's hand moved toward her sidearm, but Morrison touched her arm gently. Not yet. I propose a simple arrangement, Zekthor continued. Humanity surrenders these 3 worlds to the Vrytix Empire, peacefully. In return, we will not pursue further expansion into human space. For now. And if we refuse? Morrison asked, not turning around. Then we will take them by force. And once our fleets are already deployed, well... Zekthor spread his massive hands. It would be inefficient to stop at just 3 worlds. The Vrytix Empire does not do anything halfway. The council chamber fell silent. This was beyond simple mockery now. This was a direct threat. An act of aggression. And yet no one spoke against it. No one defended humanity. Mir Asha looked at Morrison with something that might have been pity. The Council cannot interfere in bilateral disputes, she said. If humanity cannot defend these worlds, then perhaps they should not possess them. This is the law of the galaxy. The strong thrive. The weak submit or perish, Morrison finally turned around. His face was calm, but Grant could see the anger burning behind his eyes. Years of diplomacy, of patience, of following every rule, and this was the result. Humanity was still seen as prey. How long do we have to consider your generous offer? Morrison asked, his voice dripping with sarcasm. 30 standard days, Zekthor said. More than enough time for you to see reason. More than enough time for you to understand that resistance would be unwise. My fleet is already assembling. 3,000 warships. The largest armada the galaxy has seen in 500 years. All for you, little humans. Feel honored. Morrison nodded slowly. 30 days, very well. We will give you our answer then. There is only one answer that will save your species from extinction, Zekthor said. Choose wisely. As Morrison and Grant left the council chamber, they passed through corridors filled with other species representatives. All of them whispered. All of them stared, some with pity, some with contempt, none with respect. In the docking bay, their shuttle waited. Once inside and away from listening devices, Grant finally spoke. Admiral, they're going to attack no matter what we do. You know that? Yes, Morrison said quietly. I know. So what do we do? Morrison looked out the viewport at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, humanity's colonies were going about their daily lives unaware that war was coming, unaware that the galaxy had finally decided to test humanity's strength. We go home, Morrison said. We tell the president, and then we remind the galaxy why humanity survived ice ages, plagues, and world wars. We remind them why we're still here when so many other species are just fossils and memories. You think we can win? Grant asked. Morrison smiled again, that same cold smile. Commander, they think strength is about how hard you can hit. They think warfare is about honor and glory and direct confrontation. They've never faced an enemy that fights dirty, that uses every advantage, that refuses to lose no matter the cost. He turned to face her fully. They've never faced humans at war. Real war, total war. They're about to learn what that means. The shuttle left the station, burning hard for Earth. Behind them, the Galactic Council continued its session, already discussing how they would divide humanity's territory after the Vratics conquered it. None of them noticed the small human ship that had been recording everything. None of them realized that humanity had been preparing for this moment for 50 years. None of them understood what was about to happen. They would learn. In 30 days, the galaxy would learn what humanity really was. The news spread across Earth like wildfire. Within hours of Morrison's return, every human in the solar system knew about the Vratics ultimatum. Surrender 3 colonies or face annihilation. 30 days to decide. President Karen Holloway sat in the command center beneath Geneva, surrounded by screens showing the panic spreading through human space. On New Dakota, families packed their belongings. On New Texas, farmers stared at fields they had spent generations cultivating. On New Montana, children asked their parents if they would have to leave their homes. How bad is it? Holloway asked. General Paul Bennett stood beside her, his weathered face grim. He had served in 3 colonial conflicts and 2 deep space incidents. He had seen combat, but this was different. This was a fight for humanity's survival. 3,000 Vratics warships, Bennett said. Each one outguns our best cruiser by a factor of 10. They have superior shields, faster engines, and more firepower. In a straight fight, we lose badly. Then we don't fight straight, Holloway said. Bennett smiled. No, ma'am. We don't. He pulled up a holographic display that filled the center of the room. It showed the Vratics Empire, their military positions, their trade routes, their homeworld. 50 years of intelligence gathering, all laid out in glowing lines and markers. We've been preparing for this since we first met them, Bennett said. Since we first realized the galaxy saw us as weak, we knew eventually someone would test us. So we prepared. Holloway studied the display. Tell me everything. Bennett gestured, and the display zoomed in on a facility hidden deep in the asteroid belt. Project Erebus. We've spent 20 years developing it. 30% of our entire military budget. We told the colonies it was for asteroid mining. We told the council it was for research. It's neither. What is it? It's everything we learned about warfare in 10,000 years of killing each other, Bennett said quietly. Every dirty trick, every ambush, every trap, every psychological weapon. We studied how humans fight when survival is at stake, when honor means nothing, when winning is everything. He pulled up another screen, this one showing the Vradix biology in detail. We've been studying every species in the Council for decades. Their biology, their psychology, their tactics. The Vradix are warriors, but they fight with honor. They announce their attacks. They face their enemies directly. They follow rules. And we don't, Holloway said. We can't afford to, Bennett replied. So we won't. The door opened and Dr. Nathan Cross entered. He was young for his position, barely 40, but he had a mind that understood weapons like others understood music. He carried a slim data pad and looked nervous. Madam President, he said, I've prepared the briefing on Erebus. Show me, Holloway ordered. Cross activated his pad and the room filled with displays. Weapons. Hundreds of different weapons. Some conventional, some exotic, some that made even Bennett look uncomfortable. Erebus isn't one weapon system, Cross explained. It's a coordinated approach to total warfare. We identified every weakness in Vradix biology and technology. Then we built weapons specifically to exploit those weaknesses. He pulled up the first display. Vradix rely heavily on pheromone communication. Their battle formations coordinate through chemical signals. We've developed a dispersal agent that mimics their danger pheromones. When they smell it, their instincts override their training. They panic. They run. Chemical warfare, Holloway said. Non-lethal, Cross emphasized. We could kill them easily. We chose not to. But we can make them unable to fight. That's almost better. He showed another weapon. Their ships navigate using quantum resonance sensors. Very sophisticated. Impossible for most species to jam. But we discovered they have a specific vulnerability. We built mines that create false quantum signatures. Their sensors show ghost fleets, phantom enemies. They waste ammunition shooting at nothing. Bennett took over the briefing. We've also prepared psychological warfare. The Vradix have a rigid honor code. Facing an enemy who refuses to fight by their rules terrifies them on a fundamental level. We've studied their culture. We know exactly what to say, what to broadcast to break their morale. And our conventional forces? Holloway asked. Limited but effective, Bennett said. We can't match their firepower, so we won't try. Instead, we use stealth, speed, and precision. Hit and run ambush, we make them afraid of empty space. We make every light year of travel a nightmare. Captain Amy Fletcher entered the room, still in her flight suit. She had just returned from a deep reconnaissance mission into Vradix space. Captain Fletcher, Holloway said. Report. Fletcher looked tired but excited. The Vradix are assembling their fleet at their staging area near the border. 3,000 ships, just like they said. But here's the interesting part. They've stripped their home defense fleet to do it. Their core worlds are nearly defenseless. They're so confident in their victory. They've left themselves wide open. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. They think we're going to defend the colonies, Holloway said slowly. They think we'll fight where they expect us to fight. Yes, ma'am, Fletcher said. They have no idea we could strike their homeworld. Bennett pulled up the tactical display again. Here's what I propose. We evacuate the civilians from New Dakota, New Texas, and New Montana. Make it look like panic. Like we're running. Like we're giving up. But we're not, Holloway said. No, we're baiting the trap. We leave behind military volunteers. People who know what they're doing. People who know how to fight dirty. When the Vradix land expecting easy victory, we turn those colonies into nightmares. Guerrilla warfare. Urban combat. Everything they're not prepared for. He zoomed the display to show the Vradix homeworld. Meanwhile, Fletcher takes a strike force to their home system. Not to conquer. Just to prove we can reach it. To show them they're vulnerable. To make them recall their fleet to defend their families. And while they're scattered and confused, Cross added, we deploy Erebus. We hit them with everything. Chemical agents. Electronic warfare. Psychological operations. We don't destroy their fleet. We break it. We make them unable to fight, unable to coordinate, unable to function. Holloway walked around the display, studying it from every angle. She thought about the families on those colonies. The children asking if they had to leave. The farmers staring at their fields. The panic in the streets. This is total war, she said quietly. This is everything we've tried to move past. Everything we've tried to leave behind in our history. Yes, ma'am, Bennett said, but they didn't give us a choice. Holloway looked at Morrison, who had been silent throughout the briefing. Admiral, you've been quiet. What do you think? Morrison chose his words carefully. I think the Vratics made a fundamental mistake. They looked at humanity and saw weakness. They saw our small size, our fragile bodies, our lack of natural weapons. They never bothered to ask why a species like that survived, how we became the dominant species on a planet full of predators, how we survived ice ages and plagues and each other. He walked to the display showing Earth's history, images of ancient warfare, medieval sieges, world wars, nuclear weapons. We survived because we're the most dangerous predators Earth ever produced, Morrison said. Not because we're strong, because we're smart. Because we adapt. Because when survival is at stake, we do whatever it takes. No rules, no honor, no mercy. Just survival. He turned to face Holloway. The Vratics think this will be a war. It won't be. It will be an education. We're going to teach them what human warfare really means. Holloway made her decision. Deploy Project Erebus. Begin evacuation procedures for the colonies, but make it look chaotic. Make it look like panic. And get our people in position. She looked at each person in the room. 30 days. That's what they gave us. In 30 days, we show the galaxy what happens when you threaten humanity. We show them what we really are. Bennett saluted. Yes, ma'am. As everyone moved to execute the plan, Holloway remained at the display looking at the images of Earth's violent history. So much death. So much suffering. They had worked so hard to move past it, to become better. But the galaxy had forced their hand. The galaxy had demanded to see what humanity could do when pushed to the edge. They would see. In 30 days, everyone would see. And they would wish they had never asked. The Vratics fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. 3,000 warships, each one a masterpiece of destructive power, hung in space above New Dakota like a swarm of metal predators. On the flagship, War Master Drakakon watched the human colony world with satisfaction. Scan for defensive platforms, he ordered. His sensor officer studied the displays. Minimal defenses, War Master. A few orbital stations, some patrol ships. They appear to be evacuating. Drakakon saw the streams of civilian ships fleeing the planet's surface heading for the outer system. Cargo vessels overloaded with refugees. Personal craft packed beyond safety limits. The panic was visible even from orbit. Pathetic, Drakakon said. They run like prey animals. This will be easier than expected. He opened a channel to his fleet. All ships begin orbital bombardment of military targets. Destroy their defenses. Then we land and claim this world for the Vratics Empire. The fleet opened fire. Lances of energy stabbed down through the atmosphere, striking the targets the sensors had identified. Military bases exploded. Spaceports vaporized. Defensive batteries vanished in clouds of fire and debris. On the planet's surface, Marshal Greg Sullivan watched the bombardment from his hidden command post. Around him, 500 volunteers monitored screens and prepared weapons. They were the ones who had stayed behind, the ones who knew what was coming. They're hitting the decoys, Sullivan said with a grim smile. Every single one. His tactical officer, Lieutenant Sam Porter, shook his head in amazement. They're not even checking. They just shoot at whatever their sensors show them. They expect us to fight like them, Sullivan said. Stand our ground. Defend our bases. Die with honor. He spat the last word like a curse. They have no idea what human warfare really looks like. The bombardment lasted for an hour. When it finally stopped, Drakakon studied the damage reports with satisfaction. Every human military installation destroyed. Every defensive position eliminated. The way was clear for occupation. Deploy ground forces, he ordered. 20,000 warriors. Secure the cities. Round up any remaining humans. Show them the price of defying the Vratics Empire. Landing craft filled the sky like falling stars. They touched down in the major cities and Vratics warriors poured out, expecting resistance. Instead, they found empty streets, abandoned buildings, silence. In the flagship's command center, Drakakon frowned. Where are they? Where are the humans? The cities appear deserted, War Master, his sensor officer reported. We're reading minimal life signs. They must have evacuated completely. Then they are cowards, Drakakon said. Send the warriors to secure key facilities. Establish control. This world is ours. The Vratics moved through the empty cities in formation, weapons ready, alert for ambush. But nothing happened. The humans were gone. Victory was complete. Then the first mine exploded. A Vratics patrol was moving through what had been New Dakota's main commercial district when the street beneath them erupted. The mine was small, placed with precision, and it killed 5 warriors instantly. The survivors scattered, taking cover behind buildings. "Contact," the patrol leader reported. "We're under attack." But there was no follow-up. No enemy appeared. Just silence. The patrol moved forward cautiously. 3 blocks later, another mine. 2 more warriors dead. This time, the survivors didn't just take cover. They ran, abandoning their positions, heading back toward the landing zone. "Hold your position," Drakakon roared over the communications net. "You are Vradix warriors. You do not run." But the running was contagious. As more patrols encountered mines, traps, and hidden explosives, more warriors fled. They had been trained for glorious combat, for facing enemies who stood and fought. They had no training for an enemy who hid, who struck without warning, who refused to show themselves. Then the snipers began their work. Lieutenant Porter lay on a rooftop 2 miles from the nearest Vradix patrol. His rifle was a masterpiece of human engineering, designed for extreme long-range accuracy. Through his scope, he watched a Vradix officer organizing his scattered troops. Porter took a breath, let it out slowly, and squeezed the trigger. The Vradix officer's head exploded. His troops scattered, looking for the shooter, but Porter was already moving, sliding down through the building's interior, emerging 3 blocks away. By the time the Vradix figured out where the shot had come from, Porter was in a new position, selecting a new target. This happened across the city. Human snipers, hidden and patient, picked off Vradix warriors one by one. The Vradix tried to respond, firing at suspected positions, but the humans were ghosts. Shoot and move. Never stay in one place. Never give the enemy a target. In his command post, Sullivan watched his teams work with professional satisfaction. "How many casualties have we inflicted?" 400 Vradix dead, Porter reported. "We've lost 12 people, mostly to mines that detonated prematurely." "Acceptable," Sullivan said coldly. "Begin Phase 2. Phase 2 was psychological." Speakers hidden throughout the city began broadcasting. Not threats, not demands, just sounds. The sounds of human laughter. Children playing, people singing. Normal, everyday sounds of life. And then those sounds would cut off suddenly, replaced by screams. Simulated screams of Vradix warriors dying. Calls for help in the Vradix language. Pleas for mercy that went unanswered. The broadcasts were designed specifically to trigger Vradix fear responses. Humans had studied their psychology for decades. They knew exactly what terrified them. Being alone, being hunted, facing an enemy that broke all the rules of honorable combat. Drakakon watched his warriors fall apart. Veteran soldiers, decorated heroes of dozens of campaigns, reduced to scared children by an enemy they never saw. He ordered them to regroup at the landing zones, to pull back and bombard the cities from orbit. But when his warriors tried to retreat, they found the routes blocked. Vehicles destroyed, roads collapsed, buildings toppled across streets, and in the rubble, hidden humans with explosives and rifles, picking off anyone who tried to pass. Meanwhile, millions of light years away, Captain Amy Fletcher's stealth ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Vradix home system. Her crew consisted of 12 people. Her ship was designed for reconnaissance, not combat. But she wasn't here to fight. She was here to send a message. "Sensor Officer Jake Matthews," she said quietly. "What do you see?" Matthews studied his displays with growing excitement. "Exactly what the intelligence said, Captain. The Vradix have stripped their home defense fleet. They've got maybe 50 ships protecting the entire inner system, and those are mostly patrol craft. Nothing serious," Fletcher smiled. "Then let's introduce ourselves." Her ship moved into the system on silent running, invisible to Vradix sensors. They passed the outer planets, the asteroid belt, the gas giants. They crept closer and closer to the Vradix homeworld, the heart of their empire. When they were close enough, Fletcher activated her communications array and broadcast on every frequency the Vradix used. Video, audio, data streams. She made sure everyone on that planet could see and hear what she was about to say. "People of the Vradix Empire," Fletcher said in their language, "your leaders told you that humanity is weak, that we would surrender without a fight, that your warriors would return home victorious in a matter of days." She pulled up footage from New Dakota, images of Vradix warriors fleeing from unseen enemies, audio of their panicked communications, video of their officers begging for reinforcements. "This is what is happening to your invasion fleet right now," Fletcher said. "They are not winning. They are dying. not in glorious combat, not in honorable battle. They are being hunted by an enemy they cannot see, cannot fight, cannot defeat. She paused, letting that sink in. And now I want to show you something else. Look at your sensors. Look at your defensive systems. Notice anything unusual? On the Vradix homeworld, alarms began to sound. Their defense fleet scrambled, because suddenly their sensors showed a human ship in orbit, a ship that had somehow penetrated their defenses, a ship that could have been carrying weapons, could have been carrying bombs, could have been about to destroy their homeworld. Fletcher let them panic for exactly 60 seconds. Then she spoke again. We're not here to attack you. We're here to prove a point. Your warriors are on our worlds trying to conquer us, and we are here at your homeworld unopposed. Do you understand what this means? It means we can reach you anytime we want. It means your families are as vulnerable as ours. It means this war you started can go both ways. She cut the transmission and activated her faster-than-light drive. Before the Vradix defense fleet could even reach her position, she was gone, jumping back to human space. On New Dakota, Drakon received the news of Fletcher's broadcast with a sick feeling in his stomach. His warriors were trapped on the planet's surface, unable to advance or retreat, and now his homeworld was vulnerable. He opened a channel to the Vradix High Command. Request immediate reinforcements. The humans are not what we expected. The response was cold. You have 3,000 ships. You face a species with no significant military. Handle it, War Master, or we will find someone who can. Drakakon closed his eyes. He had made a terrible mistake. They all had. They had looked at humanity and seen weakness. But weakness and restraint were not the same thing. Dr. Nathan Cross stood in the control center of Project Erebus, watching displays that showed the entire war theater. New Dakota, New Texas, New Montana, the Vradix fleet positions, their communication patterns, their supply lines, everything humanity had built over 20 years was about to be used. Status on all systems? Cross asked. Commander Helen Price, his lead scientist, ran through the checklist. Chemical dispersal satellites are in position. Quantum minefields are active. Psychological warfare broadcasts are ready. Navigation virus is loaded and waiting for deployment. All systems green. Cross took a deep breath. Then let's begin. Deploy Package 1. Across the 3 colony worlds, small satellites suddenly came alive. They had been floating in orbit for weeks, disguised as debris ignored by Vradix sensors. Now they activated, releasing clouds of carefully designed molecules into the upper atmosphere. The molecules were lighter than air. They spread on the wind, invisible and odorless to humans. But to Vradix warriors on the ground, they smelled exactly like their species' natural danger pheromone. The scent that said predator. The scent that said run. On New Dakota, a Vradix patrol was moving through the ruins of what had been a shopping district. They had been on edge for days, jumping at shadows, firing at nothing. Their officer was trying to hold them together, maintain discipline. Then the smell reached them. Every Vradix warrior froze. Their biology overrode their training. Millions of years of evolution screamed at them that something was wrong. Something was hunting them. Something was close. Hold your positions. The officer ordered, but his own voice shook. He smelled it too. The danger scent. The fear scent. One warrior broke and ran. Then another. Then all of them. They scattered in every direction, abandoning weapons, abandoning orders, just running. The officer tried to stop them, tried to rally them, but then he was running too, driven by instincts older than civilization. This happened across all 3 worlds, 20,000 Vradix warriors, all suddenly convinced they were being hunted by something terrible. They ran, they hid. They stopped being an army and became a mob of terrified individuals. In orbit, Drakakon watched his ground forces collapse on the tactical displays. What is happening? Why are they running? There is no enemy. His sensor officer had no answer. The displays showed no human attacks, no weapons fire, nothing to explain why his warriors were fleeing in panic. Order them to regroup, Drakakon roared. Order them back to the landing zones. But the orders were ignored. The chemical agent had done its work perfectly. The Vradix ground invasion was over, broken not by weapons but by their own biology. Cross watched the results with grim satisfaction. Package 1 is successful. Deploy Package 2. Package 2 targeted the Vradix fleet itself. Thousands of quantum mines, each one smaller than a human fist, activated throughout the space around the 3 colony worlds. They had been placed over weeks, drifting like dust, invisible to conventional sensors. Now they began generating false quantum signatures. To Vradic's navigation systems, it suddenly appeared that human warships were everywhere. Hundreds of them. Thousands of them, surrounding the Vradic's fleet from every direction. Multiple contacts. Drakon's sensor officer shouted, "Enemy ships are appearing all around us." "Thousands of them." "That's impossible," Drakon said. "The humans don't have that many ships." "Scan again." But every scan showed the same thing. Human ships closing in, preparing to attack. The sensor officer's hand shook as he studied the data. "War Master, I don't understand." "The signals are real. The quantum signatures match human vessels. They're everywhere." Drakon made a decision. All ships defensive formation. "Prepare to engage." 3,000 Vradic's warships opened fire on the Phantom fleet. They burned through ammunition, firing at targets that didn't exist, wasting precious resources on ghosts created by human technology. And while they fired, they moved into tighter formations, clustering together for mutual protection. Exactly what the humans wanted. Admiral Jack Morrison watched from his command ship, hidden in the outer system. His actual fleet consisted of 200 vessels. Old ships, small ships, nothing that could stand up to the Vradic's in direct combat. But he didn't need to fight them directly. "They're clustered nicely," Morrison said. "Deploy Package 3. Package 3 was biological, not a weapon that killed. Humanity had decided against that, but a weapon that disabled. Small containers launched from Morrison's ships drifted into the Vradic's fleet on ballistic trajectories. The Vradic's point defenses should have destroyed them easily, but the defenders were too busy firing at phantom enemies to notice a few pieces of debris. The containers entered Vradic's ships through engine vents, through weapons ports, through any opening they could find. Inside, they released an aerosol designed specifically for Vradic's biology. Within minutes, Vradic's crew members began to feel strange, dizzy, disoriented, not sick enough to be incapacitated, but just sick enough to make mistakes. To read instruments wrong, to misunderstand orders, to second-guess their training. On Drakon's flagship, the effects spread quickly. His navigator plotted a course that was 5 degrees off. His weapons officer targeted friendly ships instead of enemies. His communication specialist sent orders to the wrong vessels. "What is wrong with everyone?" Drakon demanded. "Why are you making these mistakes?" But he felt it too. A fog in his mind, a difficulty concentrating. He tried to focus, tried to think clearly, but it was like wading through water. The Vradic's fleet began to fall apart. Ships moved out of formation. Commands were misunderstood. Fire control systems locked onto friendly vessels. Collisions became common as navigators made simple but critical errors. Cross-deployed Package 4. Psychological warfare on a scale never seen before. Every Vradic's communication channel suddenly filled with broadcasts. Videos showing Vradic's cultural taboos being violated. Images designed to trigger disgust and horror. Audio of Vradic's religious ceremonies being mocked. Everything humanity had learned about what terrified them, what disgusted them, what broke their morale. And mixed in with this were messages in perfect Vradic's, speaking directly to the warriors. "You came to our worlds to conquer us, to kill us, to take what was ours. Did you think we would just accept that? Did you think we would fight honorably? Fight fairly? We are humans. We do not fight fairly. We fight to win, and we will do anything. Use any weapon, exploit any weakness to ensure our survival. Look at your fleet. Look at your warriors. They are broken, not by superior firepower, not by better ships, but by simple biology, by chemistry, by psychology. We studied you. We learned you. We prepared for you. And now we are dismantling you piece by piece. You wanted to see human weakness. Instead, you are learning about human warfare. Real warfare. Total warfare. And you cannot stop us. Because we are willing to do what you are not. We are willing to win." The broadcast continued for hours. Combined with the chemical agents and the biological disruptors in the Phantom fleet, they shattered what remained of Vradic's cohesion. Ships began to withdraw. Not under orders, just individually deciding that survival was more important than victory. They jumped to faster-than-light travel, fleeing in random directions, abandoning the fleet, abandoning the mission. Drakon tried to stop them, tried to maintain control, but his orders were ignored. His fleet was deserting. His warriors were broken. His invasion had become a rout, "Recall all forces," he finally ordered. "Withdraw to the rally point." But there was no rally point anymore. His fleet was scattered across dozens of light years. His ground forces were still on the human worlds, trapped and terrified. His careful plans had dissolved into chaos, and then came the final blow. Cross deployed the navigation virus. It had been loaded into a simple data packet, attached to a routine communication. The Vrodix ship computers accepted it without question, never suspecting that human code could infiltrate their systems. The virus was elegant. It didn't destroy anything. It didn't shut systems down. It simply introduced tiny errors into navigation calculations. 1 degree here, 2 degrees there, small enough to seem like normal drift, but enough that ships heading for the same destination would end up light years apart. The remaining Vradix fleet tried to regroup, but every ship that jumped to faster than light travel ended up in the wrong place. They called for help, but their distress signals couldn't reach each other. They were alone in the dark, scattered and lost, unable to find their way home. Morrison watched it all with cold satisfaction. How many Vradix ships remained combat effective? His tactical officer studied the displays. "Less than 200, Admiral. The rest are scattered, damaged, or have fled beyond tracking range. Their ground forces on the colonies are requesting evacuation, but they have no ships to evacuate them." Morrison nodded. "Begin Phase 2 of our operation. Send our strike force to the Vradix home system, not to attack, just to demonstrate that we can. Let them know their families are as vulnerable as ours. And the ground forces on our colonies." Morrison's expression was hard. "Let them surrender. We'll treat prisoners according to the rules of war, our rules, not theirs." 47 days after the Vradix ultimatum, Admiral Jack Morrison returned to the Galactic Council station. He wore the same crisp blue uniform. He walked with the same confident stride. But everything else had changed. The council chamber was silent as he entered. Representatives from 40 species watched him with new eyes, some with respect, some with fear. All of them had seen the reports. All of them knew what humanity had done. High Counselor Mirasha sat in her elevated seat, her ancient face unreadable. "Admiral Morrison, the council has reviewed your actions against the Vradix Empire. We have questions." "I'm sure you do," Morrison said calmly. "But first I have something to show you." He activated a holographic display that filled the center of the chamber. It showed the Vradix home system, the planet where billions of Vradix civilians lived, where their government sat, where their families waited for news of the war. And surrounding that planet was a human fleet, not a large fleet, maybe 50 ships, but enough. Enough to make a point. Enough to show that humanity could reach them, could threaten them, could do to the Vradix homeworld what the Vradix had tried to do to human colonies. "As of this morning," Morrison said, "the Vradix Empire has agreed to a complete and unconditional surrender. They will disarm their remaining military forces. They will pay reparations for the damage they attempted to cause. They will issue a formal apology to every human colony they threatened." He paused, looking around the chamber. "And they will never, ever threaten humanity again." Ambassador Zekthor was not present. He had been recalled to the Vradix homeworld in disgrace. In his place sat a junior diplomat, her scales pale with stress. "The Vradix Empire requests the Council's intervention," she said quietly. "The human fleet around our homeworld is a violation of our sovereignty. We ask that they be ordered to withdraw." Morrison smiled. "You mean the way you violated our sovereignty when you threatened to conquer our colonies? The way you assembled 3,000 warships to destroy us? That kind of sovereignty." The Vradix diplomat had no response. President Karen Holloway appeared on the main display, broadcasting from Earth. She looked tired, but resolute. "The Galactic Council denied our petition for membership because we allegedly couldn't defend ourselves. Because we were weak. Because we lacked significant military capabilities." She gestured, and the display changed. It showed images from the war. Vradix warriors fleeing from invisible enemies. Vradix ships scattered across space. Vradix ground forces surrendering en masse. "We have now demonstrated that we can defend ourselves quite effectively," Holloway said. "In fact, we have demonstrated something more than that. We have shown what happens when humanity is threatened, when we are pushed to the edge. When we have no choice but to fight." She looked directly at the council members. "For 50 years we have followed your rules. We have been patient. We have been peaceful. And you repaid our patience by allowing one of your members to threaten us with genocide. To demand we surrender our worlds or face annihilation, you left us no choice. So we reminded the galaxy what humanity really is, what we are capable of when survival is at stake. The chamber remained silent. What could they say? Humanity had proven its point. Proven it beyond any doubt. Morrison pulled up another display. This one showed detailed files on every species in the Galactic Council. Their biology, their psychology, their military capabilities, their weaknesses. We've spent 50 years studying all of you, Morrison said quietly, learning about you, preparing contingencies, just in case. We hoped we would never need to use this information. But the Vratics forced our hand. He looked at each council member in turn. And now you all know. You know that we have detailed plans for warfare against every single one of you. You know that we can exploit weaknesses you didn't even know you had. You know that in a fight for survival, humanity will do whatever it takes to win. We don't want to fight you. We came to the stars seeking peace, seeking cooperation, seeking to be part of something larger than ourselves. But we will not be victims. We will not be prey, and we will not allow anyone to threaten us with extinction. High Counselor Mir Asha finally spoke. You have made your point, Admiral. Humanity is not weak. We understand that now. But surrounding the Vratics homeworld with warships holding billions of civilians hostage, this is not the action of a peaceful species. Holloway's image leaned forward. With respect, Counselor, we're not holding anyone hostage. Our ships are simply demonstrating what the Vratics tried to do to us, showing them how it feels to have someone else's military force hovering over their families, over their children, but we're not going to attack. We never intended to, because unlike the Vratics, we understand the difference between strength and cruelty, between defending ourselves and becoming the monsters we fought against. She gestured to Morrison. Admiral, order our fleet to withdraw from the Vratics home system. Leave a monitoring station to ensure compliance with the surrender terms, but bring our people home. Morrison saluted. Yes, Madam President. The display changed again. This time it showed human ships pulling back from the Vratics homeworld, leaving peacefully, demonstrating restraint even in victory. This is what we wanted the Council to see, Holloway said. That humanity can fight, that we can win, but that we also know when to stop, when to show mercy, when to be better than our enemies. Colonel Steve Harrison, who had led the strike force to the Vratics homeworld, appeared on another display. He looked exhausted but satisfied. We could have bombarded their planet, Harrison said. We could have killed billions in retaliation for what they tried to do to us. It would have been easy. But we didn't, because that's not who we are. That's not who we want to be. We fight when we must. We fight dirty when we must. We do whatever it takes to survive. But we don't become the monsters. We don't lose our humanity in the process of defending it. The Galactic Council deliberated for 3 hours. Morrison waited patiently, standing in the center of the chamber, while representatives argued about what humanity's display of power meant for the galaxy. Some argued that humanity was too dangerous, too unpredictable, too willing to use unconventional weapons. Others argued that humanity had simply defended itself effectively, doing nothing that any other species wouldn't do when facing extinction. Finally, Mir Asha called for a vote. The question before the Council is simple. Does humanity deserve full membership in the Galactic Council? All in favor? The vote was unanimous. Every single species voted yes. Even the Vratics diplomat, her scales still pale with stress, raised her hand in agreement. The Council recognizes humanity as a full member species, Mir Asha announced, with all the rights and responsibilities that membership entails. Morrison allowed himself a small smile. Thank you, Counselor. On behalf of the United Earth government and all human colonies, we accept. But he wasn't done. There was one more thing that needed to be said. However, I want to make something clear to this Council. What you witnessed in the past 47 days was humanity defending itself. This is not who we want to be. This is not how we want to exist among the stars. We came to the galaxy seeking peace, seeking friendship, seeking to learn from species older and wiser than ourselves. And in return, we were mocked. We were threatened. We were told we were too weak to matter. So we proved that we're not weak. We proved that underestimating humanity is a fatal mistake. But now we want to move past this. We want to return to seeking peace, to being the species we were trying to become. He looked directly at the Council members. But let this be a lesson to everyone in this chamber. Humanity survived ice ages, plagues, world wars, nuclear weapons. We survived 10,000 years of killing each other before we finally learned to live in peace. That experience, that history of violence is still part of who we are. We've learned to control it, to channel it, to use it only when we must. We are willing to be peaceful. We are willing to be cooperative. We are willing to be the best neighbors you could ask for. But we are also willing to do whatever it takes to survive, whatever it takes. Remember that. The next time someone thinks about threatening humanity, the next time someone mistakes our restraint for weakness, remember what happened to the Vradix Empire. Remember how quickly we dismantled them. Remember that we're still here, and they are broken. The chamber was completely silent. Morrison turned to leave, but the Vradix diplomat spoke. Admiral Morrison, I must ask. The chemical weapons, the biological agents, the psychological warfare, these were all non-lethal. You could have killed us all easily, why didn't you? Morrison stopped and looked back at her. Because killing you would have been easy. Breaking you, defeating you, showing your empire that you couldn't touch us, that required more skill, more intelligence, more humanity. We wanted the Vradix Empire to survive, to remember, to tell the story of what happens when you threaten us. Dead civilizations can't warn others about their mistakes. But you can. You will. He walked out of the chamber, leaving the council to contemplate his words. 2 months later, humanity formally took its seat on the Galactic Council. The ceremony was brief. Zekthor himself had to present the seat to Morrison as tradition demanded. The former ambassador stood before the human delegation. His massive form somehow diminished and spoke.